Good day, good day. Welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Jay, and this is Homeschool Your Kids podcast. And today we have with us Jamie. Jamie, introduce yourself.
Hi, Jay, and hi, listeners. My name is Jamie Schonhoff, and I am an owner and an occupational therapist for Conquer Therapy Services, which is located in St. Louis, Missouri. We provide occupational therapy services, physical therapy services, and speech and language therapy services.
Okay. What are
Yeah.
occupational therapy?
Um, yeah, so what's occupational therapy? So that is can sometimes be a long-winded answer. But basically it is your occupations that matter to you or that you have to engage in to have a fulfilled life. So it basically means anybody who is struggling with living a fulfilled life. We can come in and help kind of support them as a person, support their environment, support their tasks, their team, to be able to engage in those occupations or those tasks that they need to live full lives.
Okay, so this is ageless. This has no age
Yeah,
limit.
there is no age limit. And actually, it doesn't really even have limits as far as location goes either. Occupational therapists have been known to be community-based in hospitals, in schools, and then in some kind of non-conventional settings as well. Because it impacts, it can impact everybody. It can really help anybody. Our specific company is services individuals from birth all the way up to 21 years of age.
Okay.
Um, but occupational therapy as a whole can service anybody.
Okay, so you all work with a lot of youth and young adults. Um, what are some of the things that they are reaching out for you for?
Yeah, so kind of a wide range. Sometimes they might have a diagnosed disability, or might be kind of a unique learner where they're struggling to fit into kind of our standards as far as outcomes go and what our environment and society tells us we should be.
Mhm.
And so they might call us and just say, hey, I'm really struggling, or my kiddo's really struggling to, you know, be successful in school or be successful making friends, or they're having a hard time with, a specific motor delay that is impacting their socialization or their ability to get around in their environment. So those are all things in combination with a lot of different areas that we really tap into, or what people might call us for. And I will tell you, I mean, as far as, the homeschool community goes, we definitely service a lot of individuals in their whatever environment they are in naturally. So if they're learning at home or learning in their cohorts, and it's, they maybe have a unique style that their cohort leader or their teacher isn't able to meet their full needs, we can very easily come in and say, hey, let's try this or let's try that, or let's make some modifications. And then those strategies that we help them implement can make a big difference to be able to stay in the learning that they desire to be in.
Okay, so it's more on the lines of like problem and solution type deal
It
as opposed to like, when you think about therapy, you think about talking and sitting on the couch and
Yes,
telling you all my childhood
yes,
traumas.
yes, yes. That's
So
exactly.
it's
And
more
yeah, we do tap into some more of the cognitive, emotional side of things. We definitely can, especially as occupational therapists and speech language pathologists. But we also tap into so many other aspects as well.
Okay, nice. Did you all, oh, okay. So how long have you all been in service? How long have you all been doing this?
So yeah, so the owner and I have actually graduated school back in 2008.
Okay.
Um, we started the company in 2021. So we've
Okay.
been, as far as our careers go, we kind of have a wide scope of environments that we both have worked in. I've been in schools from 3 years old all the way up to 21. Been in homes with some early intervention. She has done some hospital-based, some community-based service, and then some home health. Our therapists, we have 15 therapists that work with us, and they all have a wide range of years that they've been working as well, and then a wide range of settings that they've been working in as well.
Okay. So do you all work on the lines of like developing IEPs? Like, are you all present for that? Because I'm trying to think where I heard occupational therapists at, and not knowing the
Yes.
definition until today. I'm just trying to think, like, where did I hear that? So are you
Yes.
all in the school system in that regard, like with the individual educational plans?
So we do have therapists who are in school districts. The school districts have contracted with our company to provide those services in school districts. Um, uh, we also, though, provide services for individuals, like I said, who are in the homeschool community or in private school settings, because a lot of times your public school system might have access. They might have people on staff, OT, PT, and speech on staff to serve those individuals who are in the public school system. But private schools, and sometimes even people who are in the homeschool setting or who are in the public schools, they may not qualify for
Mm.
public school-based services, but they might still have some pretty significant challenges that they could benefit from support. So like I said, we do contract with some public schools, but we are in a lot of schools and in a lot of educational settings for individuals who do not receive services with their public school. Or on the other regard, we do have quite a few individuals who during the school day, they receive services with their public school. When you receive services through the public school, it has to be directly related. Their services have to be directly related to their education. So that kind of leaves, if you're struggling in school and it's impacting your education, you're getting therapy for that, there's very much likelihood that you also are struggling in other settings outside of school
Mm-hmm.
that school-based therapist cannot help you with. So that's where we kind of come in those situations to support families, to support community integration, to kind of help families know how to follow through and understand what that school-based therapy is. We kind of help bridge that gap so families feel supported. Um,
Nice.
yeah, so it's kind of a long-winded answer because you're right. I mean, there are a lot of kids who receive services through their public school, but there's a huge need for services outside of the public school system.
Oh, yes.
And a mission of ours with Conquer Therapy, and it kind of comes from me and Danielle's background, and a lot of our therapists who are with us feel very strongly about is that training piece, that education piece with our families, with our caretakers, with teachers. So, when they come into the therapy setting in their session with us, they're obviously doing therapeutic intervention and they're doing strategies to help them to make progress towards what their goals are. But if the people who are with the kids on a regular basis don't know how to implement those strategies, it's going to
Mm-hmm.
take a whole lot longer for them to succeed. So we don't really have a waiting room in our office. When we go into homes and schools, we ask that the teachers and the parents be a part of our
Present,
session.
yeah.
Yeah, just so that they can learn. They can learn by watching us, by talking with us, we can also hear what are the real life problems or real life challenges that you're struggling with, and we can really target those. We do a lot of watch me and then do kind of intervention, just so that they have an opportunity to practice some of those strategies. And I will tell you from my experience, it makes a huge difference in skill acquisition, and just everybody feeling empowered and feeling like they're supported, and helping
Yeah,
an
and it
individual
feels
to
like a
succeed.
team, like as
Yeah.
opposed to like, because you get a kid in a room and like
Mhm.
lo and behold, like you expect them to really share what it is that is bothering them or whatever the issue is or whatever they need help with. But having that adult present and knowing like, oh, okay, and then seeing what you all suggestion is, because playing the what's it, the telephone game as far as
Yes,
having a
yes.
young person deliver a message to you in that regard, like, it's like you're not gonna get back everything that you need to get
Yes,
back from that type of session. So that is really
absolutely.
important.
Yes, absolutely. And there's only so much, we provide that written programming too, but being able to hear
Okay.
it from us and being able to see it, I think makes a big difference.
Yes.
Um, yeah. So that's how we're a company that's a little bit different.
Okay.
And with that component, I think we appeal a lot in the St. Louis community to the homeschool population, just because they are so invested and committed to their children's learning. And so they are very willing most of the time to be a part of it.
Yes. So is this also, because I feel like you said that this can occur everywhere. Is this on Zoom also? Is this available on online, virtual
We do.
wise?
Yeah, we can
Okay.
definitely have those capabilities, and we are contracted with specifically Missouri Virtual Academy and Digital Academy. But yes, we definitely can support in a variety of ways.
So 2021 is when this launched off.
Yes.
Why? Why 2021? I mean,
Why? Yes, yes. It's something that's always been a dream. So, the other owner, her name is Danielle. She's wonderful. She's also an OT. We actually went to school together and
nice.
kind of connected through the, 13 years, 12 years that we have been we're in school, and then
You were in school that long.
no, after we went to school, while we were in school and after we went to school.
Okay, I said, wait a
It
minute
did,
now.
it
Okay.
did feel like that sometimes. It
I'm
did feel
sure. I'm
forever. Yeah.
sure.
Um, so we just both connected consistently with this mission to provide this level of support, and kind of fill the gaps in the community, that kids were kind of falling through the cracks, or families
Mm,
weren't feeling supported, or teachers weren't feeling supported, or kids weren't succeeding in
mm,
their environments. And I really have a passion for kind of across the lifespan of development up to that young adult age group is what my experience is in. And she has a completely different mindset and a completely different skill set to her practice, but we both were running into the same roadblocks and both
mm.
feeling like there were gaps kind of in the systems within our community. And so we kind of always talked that through, and you can only talk so much without feeling like you need to take action.
Yes.
And so we just decided now's the time, let's do it. And we sat down, I think it was around Christmas time. She and I both sat down next to the fireplace and just said, okay, I think this is it. I think, we're ready. This is the time. Um, and in the last 2 years, since things have evolved, they have really snowballed and rapidly grown. And we have the most incredible team of therapists who align exactly to our mission, and really carry out the mission day in and day out for providing this level of support and fulfilling kind of that gap in what our society had. For individuals who are unique learners or individuals who are struggling to live their best life. And our therapists are really doing an amazing job and changing a ton of lives. I mean, every single day. And yeah, we actually feel like we have the best group of OTs, PTs, and speech out there because of the impact that they're having. So yeah, that's kind of our why. It's we every single day, she and I talk and say, what are our intentional steps for our clients, intentional steps for the community as a whole, intentional steps for our therapists to be continually providing quality therapy where they feel supported and they feel valued in their profession, so that then that can translate into all of our services. So that's
what were you doing prior to? Because you say you graduated 2008, so that's
2008.
a gap.
Yes, so
What
that's
were
a
you
little
doing prior
gap.
to?
Yes, I worked for a school district.
Okay.
And so I worked preschool, elementary, middle, high school, and kind of a little bit of post-secondary kind of transition planning for young adults with developmental disabilities. So I kind of did a wide span. I loved it. I loved working in the school district. What I loved most about working in the school district was that I had access to impact 8 hours out of the day. When you're I didn't see my clients 8 hours out of the day, but because I implemented that training piece into all of my services, I got to really have what I felt like could be the biggest impact by training people who were with them every day. I liked, looking at that broader scope. You have to be in that scope of what education allows you to be in the school district, like we talked about earlier. But I liked having that big picture scope and helping individuals to succeed in their learning in all the areas. There would be days that I'd be in the cafeteria working on feeding. There would be days that I would be in math class and helping an individual to figure out, how do I calm my body enough to be able to process the learning that I know my brain is capable of. I'd be out on the playground at field day and helping individuals to be able to fully, participate in their field days or recess or so I liked the wide scope of the education system for sure. And I did that. Yeah, I did that the whole time. I also did a little bit of early intervention, that birth to 3 population, and going into homes and helping families who have babies who are struggling right off the bat and need a little bit of extra support.
Struggling how? Like as far as what? Like cognitive development or?
Yeah, so you think of the occupations of a baby, and that's feeding, developmental skills, so developing all your skills, a little bit of like socialization, learning how to be around other babies and learn and play with other babies, developing your play skills. So how do you learn through play? And then the biggest piece of that component is, educating the families on how to do that. So a big chunk of early intervention is just helping the families develop a sleep schedule so that, their babies can sleep okay, developing, if they're struggling with feeding, like I said, making sure they know how to implement those strategies so that their babies can eat. So yeah, all of those occupations. We can do ADLs in those settings where you're working on, how do you tolerate bath time and tolerate dressing time and all of that as well.
Got you. Was that with a lot of first time parents? Is that?
No, a wide range. It can be
Really?
any,
Okay.
yeah, it can be any parent. It's and really they have to qualify. Kiddos have to qualify for early intervention services. So it has to be that they are struggling with something.
Mm.
And so we kind of, write goals based off of that, based off of what those struggles are. And then we come in and help kind of implement strategies to meet those goals. Um, and then yeah, we as far as speech therapy goes, our speech therapists are doing all of that, but as it relates to communication, and oral motor skills. And then our physical therapists are doing that as it relates to movement, and being able to, functionally move within their environment, that kind of thing. We have one of our therapists is trained in DMI, which is dynamic movement intervention. And it's a very specialized program, but you'll have to look it up at some point. It's a very impressive program that kids go through, and they when they are done with it, there are some pretty big miracles happening in their lives. Kids who aren't able to sit up or are after a couple weeks able to sit on their own, or kids who aren't walking are very quickly learning how to walk, things like that. So that program specifically that we offer makes a huge difference in kiddos' lives.
Nice. I'm glad that we're talking because you're giving such a wide range of what therapy can entail. Therapy
Yes.
is actually a trending topic in my opinion. Like I feel like everyone's talking about therapy right about now. And it's really dope. Like people are because it's assistance, it's help, it's
Yep.
reaching out to say, hey, I don't have this. Like I don't, or I can't, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know how to move forward with this. And you're asking for help. And that's a beautiful thing that is occurring because a lot of people before then were just struggling on their own, or, sitting back and just say, well, I guess I won't be able to do it. So
Yes, that's exactly it. And what we do, we are big proponents. We are very neurodiverse affirming practice. And it's very, very important for us to communicate with our clients and with their caretakers, their teachers, that we're actually all unique learners. We actually all have uniqueness to us, and that's what makes us beautiful human beings.
yeah.
And being able to find modifications, find strategies to help you to what you want to do instead of what society tells us it should look like.
Yes. And what works for that individual, not
Exactly.
what works for everyone.
Exactly. Yes. And so we do. I mean, a part of our assessment is identifying strengths and identifying what about this disability is something that's a unique gift to your community and to the people that you're around. Let's build on that. Let's really make an emphasis on that. And if that's going to bring you fulfillment and that's going to bring you contribution to your community and to your social circle, let's really highlight that and let's build on that. If there's things that are preventing you from meeting your fullest potential, or to be able to meet your needs and able to do that, we can support that. But you're going to be a part of that. I'm not going to tell you what your goals need to be. You're going to be a part of discovering yourself and what your needs are, and then advocating for yourself, understanding that like the more we all talk about our unique needs, and the more we all incorporate that into everyday life, the easier it's going to be for people to accept each other, I think. And so advocating is the other biggest thing. So we really focus on goal development, being a part of it, and then also, how do you communicate that to other people, what your unique needs are. And gosh, what a great thing for people who are not receiving services to hear, oh wow, so these things that I've been maybe hiding about myself, or these things that I really struggle with, I can actually speak up for myself, and to think that the individuals that come receive services can encourage others to
Yes.
feel comfortable in their own skin.
Yes, and not necessarily see it because I had this conversation, not this one in particular, but
Yeah.
just talking about the neurodivergent. Can you because that was a new term for me this year. I had no
Okay.
idea anything
Okay.
about it.
Yeah.
But can
Yeah.
you give a definition of neurodivergent, like divergency or like or what it means to be neurodivergent?
Yeah. So neurodivergent kind of just means your neurological system, your neurological development isn't what people would call as normal, and what society says is normal. And it kind of established out of specifically the autism and ADHD populations saying, you are really fitting us into a box, and there's some really incredible things about us. And yes, we're different, but that doesn't mean we're less than. That doesn't mean that we can't contribute. And maybe there's things about society that, the social norms that should change, not us. Is what kind of where that movement stemmed from. And so it's important for us, maybe who are neurotypical, which isn't necessarily my favorite term. And I've heard from individuals who are neurodivergent saying that term probably needs to change at some point. Um, but it's important for us who are neurotypical to listen and to understand where they're coming from, and how, I think for so long, you would say things like the person with autism, the person with ADHD, and people who are neurotypical would say, I'm being cognizant of their person first. That's what I should do. And eventually, those populations came out and they said, actually, it kind of hurts my feelings, or it's not right that
Mm,
you're taking part of me out of me. Out of me
mm,
as the person. The ADHD that I have is part of me. That's not a bad part of me. Yes, I have some struggles, but I also have some really great strengths because I have ADHD. So to take out the ADHD is to take out part of the person. To take out
mm.
the autism takes out part of the person. And so kind of recognizing that it's not a bad thing. It's not something that should be removed from someone to have a neurodivergent diagnosis, or to be neurodivergent isn't a bad thing that we should take out. We should actually kind of celebrate and see the unique amazingness that can come from
Yes.
it.
Yes, and
Um,
that's what I was speaking on in terms of like the whole definition of a disability or being labeled as a disability because it's just
mhm.
labeled that because of, like you said, because of societal standards or what people consider to be normal. And I
Yep.
don't, it's like something you have to necessarily believe in because it's like, what is normal? Like
Yeah,
everyone is so different. Everyone is
exactly.
so
Yeah.
diverse as far as like just movement, behavior, everything. And I
Yeah.
feel like we were all meant to be the individuals we're meant to be. And
Yeah.
so putting that label on it, like, oh, because you don't walk like this, or because you don't talk in sentences that are structured like this, or, or something,
Mhm. Yeah.
whatever it is that you do different, and then
Mhm.
labeling a disability, it's just like, well, is it really a disability? Like, is it?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that it's not a bad thing. Our society says certain characteristics of that disability is bad, but
Maybe
maybe that's
that's
the
the word
problem.
that needs to change, Jamie. Maybe disability is what needs to change. Maybe because maybe that's what's not sitting well with me. Maybe.
Yes, 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 because that to and what really hit me when I was diving into this, because it's important to me. I work with neurodiverse individuals all day long. And so I really dove deep into it because I thought I need to know. I need to know what they're saying and what they're feeling so that I can really empathize with them. And what I was hearing and what really struck me was how much they felt like they had to stifle certain
Mm,
behaviors or certain characteristics of themselves. So a perfect example is, you see um, someone with autism hand flapping, right? Society says, don't do that. That makes
mm,
me uncomfortable, right? the neurotypical population says that makes me uncomfortable. You shouldn't do that. A lot of therapy would then say, we got to stop them from doing that. Let's write a
Oh,
goal. Let's
yeah.
write therapy procedures so that they stop hand flapping. Well, then they go home and say, I really like hand flapping. That makes me feel good. That actually helps me regulate my body.
Mm.
And you're taking that away from me. And so those kinds of things that it's like, gosh, you shouldn't have to stop something that helps you regulate your body. We all do things that help regulate our body, and just society decides what things are okay and what things are not okay.
Yeah.
And so helping, it's important to help them to then advocate. Like, I know you don't think that I should flap my hands, but when I flap my hands, I can stay in this classroom longer and I can actually hear you better when I do
Mm.
this. So if you have a problem with it, or if it's disruptive, let's figure out, maybe I need to sit in a certain spot, but to take that away from me takes away part of me.
Mm.
Um, and there are so many anecdotal situations that you can just look it up online and read people who have said, this is a problem. This is really a problem that you're taking this away from me. And so yeah, just those things. That's what really, really struck me was, who am I to say that something should be taken away from someone? Um, they really need to be a part of that, and not, it's not my job to decide that, they should mold into society's norm.
I love that. I look at my girls all the time and I'm just like, I know they would be labeled ADHD. No,
Yeah,
if they were look, I
yeah,
know that if they got in the
yes,
classroom setting,
yes,
they will label them quick because
yeah.
they're like, but I also look at them and I'm like, I wonder how long they're gonna stay in that part of them. Like, I'm so
Yeah,
happy that they're
yeah,
able to express themselves like that without anyone telling them or labeling them and telling them that
yes.
there's something wrong with the way they behave because
Ooh,
they're
yeah,
full of joy.
yes,
Like they're
yes,
happy all
yes,
day long.
yes.
Like they can't sit still or anything, but they're happy all day long.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. And you know what I have found is that more often than not, kids are accepting of each other and their differences. It's when they get the influence of adults who
Mm,
we decide this makes me a little uncomfortable. And that influence of, ooh, is this supposed, I guess this is supposed to make me feel uncomfortable. And that's when, maybe people might speak up and there's that bullying piece, or people aren't kind
mm,
to one another. Um, but more often than not, when I'm in classrooms, when I'm in social situations, the kids don't think a thing of it. Um,
mm.
it's that adults do, and obviously adults can kind of project that on their kids as well.
Of course.
And I think a lot of that comes, kind of stems from that influence. Kids are far more accepting and far more resilient than I think we give them credit for.
Oh, they definitely are. They definitely are. I know I'm finding like, times where we are having a conversation because I was trying to explain autism. Like,
Okay.
how can
Yeah.
I explain that to a child? Like, tell me. Tell me, 'cause
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I would just explain it as, it's an individual with autism is a somebody who might have unique ways of learning and socializing with others. Um, but an individual, they are a person just like everybody else.
Oh, of course, of
And
course. That's always the
they're
key.
Yes, and their autism actually, I mean, there can be some really, really cool characteristics that come with autism. A lot of times they're very detail oriented. A lot of times they have really great memories. Sometimes they
Geniuses, like
have,
these geniuses, they really do.
yes, yes, it's really incredible. I mean, gosh, some of our most brilliant people in our world have autism or are artistic were autistic. So yeah, there are some really incredible people who are autistic, and it's impossible to know unless somebody tells you
Mhm.
that they are autistic. And I think the stereotypes sometimes lead us to thinking, oh, I wonder if you have autism. But there are autism specifically is, a spectrum. And so there can be such a wide range of characteristics that may make somebody, so really to assume somebody has autism would probably be false, because you don't really, there's too many characteristics of autism, characteristics that are incredible strengths, and then characteristics that might make life a little challenging, and make life really challenging. But it's hard to tell from, just looking at someone to know. But yeah, and if they do tell you that, this person tells you I have autism, I would say, that's cool. I have, blonde hair, and that makes me unique as well. Let's move on and let's figure out how we can build a relationship and connect with each other regardless.
Oh, I'm still here. My lovelies are up and hungry, of course.
Perfect. No, that is totally good. And if you need to get going, we
Oh
can
no,
definitely wrap
we're
up.
fine. We're fine. I
Okay.
told her,
Okay.
give me my time. Give me my time
Perfect.
with adults. Give me my
Yes.
time. But
Yes.
I think our conversation has come like being in the library and someone like, explaining like, oh, this is so and so, and they're autistic or they have autism, and then us then later having the conversation about what exactly that is.
Yeah.
So
Yes, definitely. Absolutely. And
but
I
I
think
really
I think those conversations are so important,
yeah.
and helping our next generation to understand that, you know, having autism doesn't mean that you need to avoid somebody. It doesn't mean that they are any different than you are, because we are all unique. And so it's important, that they know this person has autism, but let's figure out a way that we can connect with each other, build connection.
And it is just a uniqueness. I feel like I really feel
Mm-hmm.
like that disability and that disorder, those if we did something with those words and said something
Yes.
different, I think that
Yes.
would
Yes.
definitely make a big, big difference.
Yes. Absolutely. I completely agree.
My lovelies.
You have a
But yeah,
visitor.
yes, yes, yes.
An audience.
Always, always. They're always watching. They always let me know that.
I love it.
I love what you all are doing, and I love that this is becoming a norm to talk about. Because, like I said, I didn't know anything about the neurodivergence until this year. Like, I had
Okay.
never heard
Yes.
that word. I had never
Yes.
come across that word. Even with
Yep.
me being in the classroom and everything, I had never came across that. So I love that the conversations are being had, because that's the first step, is to get people talking about it.
It's exactly right. There's, no harm in having a conversation and asking, tell me why you use a wheelchair. And if somebody's not comfortable with that, they'll tell you. That's okay. If they want their privacy respected, that's fine. But if you have a curiosity about something, I don't think there's any harm to that.
Yes, no, there's no harm in asking the questions. And I think the
Yeah.
questions probably help way more.
Yes, absolutely.
And it
Absolutely.
makes everyone more comfortable as opposed to just staring or,
Yep,
just looking.
definitely. Yes, yes. And similarly, if you see someone out in society and you see they're struggling with something, or you see they might need help with something, there's no harm in just saying, "Hey, do you need some support? You need some help here?" Gosh, our world could use a little bit more kindness, right?
Kindness,
And
yeah.
just making that offer, there's no harm to that.
That goes with the empathy aspect. We talk about empathy a
Mhm.
lot.
Yes,
We definitely have to be, I feel, trained in that, like, in understanding,
yes.
walking in someone else's shoes and just being considerate of other
Abs
people's feelings,
yes,
because we
absolutely.
are unique. We
Yes,
are individuals. We are
yes,
all meant to be who we are meant to be. And if
yes,
everyone was made to feel comfortable in themselves, then everything would be a lot better. And I feel like we're
Yeah,
going in that direction because
I
people
do
are getting
too.
intentional and conscious about things.
I do too. I
So,
really do. I think, yeah, I think the more these conversations happen, the better. I will tell you a fun fact. When you are in OTPT or speech, university, you have to take a class called empathy. And it's
oh,
just about
really?
how, yes, how to put empathy into practice with
Mm.
your profession. And so that's kind of a little tidbit about
How
therapy
do we
is
give us some tips? How do we put
don't
empathy
you?
into
Oh
practice?
my gosh.
Like, how long ago was that
Put
class?
it on the spot because that was back in what, 2005, I think? A
Oh,
long
wow.
time ago. Yes. But I don't think you can take it out of a person once
Of
you learn how
course.
to do it. I think, like you said, putting your feet in somebody else's shoes, really helping to know and putting yourself, it's not just feeling bad for someone, that's sympathy.
That's sympathy. Yes.
Yes, but really helping yourself to take time to listen and take time
Yes.
to learn from people. We can always learn from each other,
Yes,
if
ma'am.
we take time to listen to them, and if we take time to really process what is somebody going through, and then what do we do about that? It's one thing just to feel that feeling of empathy, but then to put that into practice, and really show compassion, towards people, show that kindness towards people, is
Indeed.
kind of putting it into practice, putting that empathy into practice.
Yes, I always say like empathy has to be in the regard of what that person is going through, what that person is walking with, not what you
Mhm.
would walk with. Like, people have the habit of putting themselves in someone else's shoes and saying, well, if I was that
If
person,
I,
I would like,
yes,
no one asked that. Like, we
yes,
didn't ask that.
yes, absolutely,
It's not,
fully removing yourself,
yeah,
and really living with that person and what they're going through. Yeah. So
yes.
I do. Yeah. I think it's very important. I think these conversations, like we said, are so important too, to just be having the conversations about it. Um,
Indeed.
so that we
What
can all be
I
on the same page.
So I know to close and wrap up, I always ask
Yeah.
at least three things that you would give families, like families that are listening, three things that you would like tell them in regards to what you have going on as far as the Conquer therapy. What are three pieces of advice that you would tell them to move forward with as far as
Oh,
like,
okay.
could be in
Yes.
the occupational therapy's perspective,
Hmm.
even the empathy realm. We've talked about a lot of different things. So
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Gosh. So I got to think through three things. I would say one of my top things that I always tell families, is that you can't expect something out of your child, or your student that hasn't been taught to them. And we
Mm,
always think of teaching as, teaching, academic skills. You think about teaching specific social skills, but I mean teaching expectations. Kids don't know unless they have been taught, but a lot of times we, expect it out of them before we teach them.
mm.
So I think that's one of my top things is a lot of families, their teachers will come to me saying, so and so is so disruptive, or they're, doing this, and this. And I've said, do you reinforce them, or do you teach them how to not do that? Do you teach them the things to do instead of what not to do? And oftentimes, no, it's so easy to really magnify the, struggles and the challenging behaviors before we actually know how to teach or spend time teaching what we do
And
expect.
Jamie, I blame that on the whole common sense thing. I always tell people that there is no common sense. I feel like there's no common sense. That may just be
Mhm.
me. However,
Yeah.
I feel like you can't say what someone else was supposed to have learned in their household. Like
Yeah.
they didn't learn it. Like they
Right.
didn't learn it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And so often we just assume that kiddos
Yes.
know. I would say another thing that I always want families to know is there's no harm in reaching out for help. Um, if you feel like day in and day out you're having struggles with your kiddo, there might be something bigger going on. And when I say bigger, I don't mean something that can't be a simple solution. I just mean that it's making a big impact. And that so often I feel like people just that kind of become comfortable in their norm, even though they kind of lose touch with, this is really hard. They just do it. And I feel like so often when families call us, they've hit that breaking point. And I wish they would call earlier so they don't have, I mean,
Yes.
gosh, sometimes years of struggling of something that we can help with right off the bat. And it can be just a, simple solution that could help them. Um, so I'd say those are two really big things that I wish
One more
families
thing, Jamie. One
know.
more.
I know, I gotta think of one more thing. Um,
Those were really big and great, by the way.
yes,
Yes.
thank you. Thank you. Those are probably daily thoughts of mine though, that I'm like, oh, I try and communicate that with families all the time. Um, I think the value of that advocating piece is something that I wish families knew. I wish families knew the value of teaching your kid how to speak up for themselves, how to identify themselves, identify their own uniqueness, for kids to understand this is what makes me tick. So encouraging that self-awareness, and then families teaching their children how to advocate for that uniqueness. I just think isn't done enough. And I think it goes so far when kids are transitioning, especially to more independence, and when they have this desire for independence, but they've had no practice. And then you have this power struggle, right? Because you as a parent or as a teacher know they're not capable to be as independent as what internally they want to be. And so if you start that, I mean, I'm talking start that down to like 2 years old, when they are going through what you label terrible twos, that's just a desire to be independent. And so back then, and I don't mean they speak up and you do everything that they're telling you that they want, but even in that early age, helping kids to recognize, oh, this is a desire of mine. I want this because of this. I want this outcome because of this. Really processing through that so kids can kind of learn what their voice sounds like, what that internal dialogue is sounding like, and then translating that into advocacy within parameters is what I always tell families,
Of course. Yes. Still
advocacy
respectful. A
within
little
yes,
respectful.
within the parameters of what you've set up in your family's institution, or within your family's kind of framework. But yes, everybody is entitled to have their own voice, because yes, we are a family, but we are all unique individuals. And gosh, that's what our job is as parents, right? And as therapists and as educators, is to help them to be as independent and successful contributors to our society, right? And so the earlier they can find that voice and know why that's their voice, know why they are having those desires, and practicing it is key. So
Yes, ma'am. I love that, Jamie. That's really, really big because, a lot of households don't allow for that advocacy inside of the house. So when that child gets outside of the house, then they're definitely not standing up for themselves because they've been told
yes,
to not do
yes,
that, for the
yes.
longest. Like, no, hush, like you're a child or da da da
Right,
da. Like,
right. Or on the other
oh,
spectrum, where you let your kid dictate everything, but they're
mm,
not ever able to practice. Okay, these are the parameters that have been set up. These are the guidelines that have been set up. I want to have my own voice. I have this desire. How do I communicate that in an effective way to get my needs met, but I'm staying within the parameter of this institution that I'm in? And that goes, that can be translated in a family, that can be translated in education, in a job, that with your friends. I mean, just practicing, I can have a voice within a parameter is very important.
I love that. And I feel like that's the direction that a lot of parents are going in, with the conscious and the intentional parenting, the
Yes,
gentle
yes,
parenting,
exactly. Yes,
all of that
yes,
parenting. I
yes.
love that. Thank you, Jamie. Those are really good.
Oh,
Really, really great.
absolutely.
So where can we find Conquer Therapy?
Okay, so you can find us on our website, www.conquertherapyservices.com. Or we also are on Facebook and we are on Instagram. You can find us then. If you want to, if any of the families who are listening want to email me directly, I'm Jamie, Jamie, at conquertherapyservices.com. I would love to have a conversation with anyone, support in any way that I can.
Yes, always a reminder that help is there, community is
Yes,
there. This is not a journey you
absolutely.
have to do alone, and it's not a journey you should want to do alone. Like, reach
Absolutely.
out to, if you need help, reach out. If you need assistance, anything, if you just need someone to talk to, reach out. Like, and
Yep.
if you're going through, like Jamie said, don't wait for years. Like, don't
Mhm.
struggle for years. Because I know if I have an issue, I need that solved right now. Like, we're not about to do this. Hold on. Like, talk, the assistance is there, the help is there, the community is there. So please know that it's okay. It's okay to not be okay. That's I like that new saying. It's
Yes,
okay
I
to
love
not be
that.
okay.
Yep. Yep.
um but reach out definitely, because there are individuals who are looking forward to assisting you forward, like helping
Mhm.
you move
Mhm.
forward.
Yes.
Okay. So thank you, Jamie. Thank you,
Oh,
Conquer Therapy. I love that. I love the name.
oh,
Like,
thank you so much. I appreciate you
yes,
having us.
of
Appreciate you giving us
course,
this platform to share and for this conversation. I mean, I think
of
every little
course,
conversation that we can put out into the community, out into the world, is a step in the right direction. So,
of
I
course.
appreciate your time and your platform to be able to do that.
Thank you so so much. Thank you for all that you all are doing and continue to do. Thank
Mhm.
you.
Absolutely.
So,
It's our
in the
pleasure.
meantime, in
Yes.
between time, make sure y'all homeschool your kids.
Perfect.